All right, calling to order City of Lawrence Redevelopment Commission, Tuesday, June 23rd, 2020. We have quorum, even though Dick is by phone and Cheryl is by phone. And I also need to announce that Becky has resigned effective immediately.
Oh, jeez.
So,
Excuse me, Mr. President. Could she acknowledge the fact that she is there?
Sure.
Thank you.
Cheryl, I'm just acknowledging that you're here for a quorum.
I'll read a statement.
Okay.
Thank you.
You can announce and do a roll call to make sure I'm present.
The public is invited to attend the Lawrence Redevelopment Commission meeting. The RDC may impose reasonable restrictions on the number of attendees to control audience density in consideration of the existing COVID-19 national emergency. The public may participate remotely by dialing 463-777-8704 and enter participation code 212199. If you would like to provide comments remotely, please email them to mrothenbush, that's spelled MROTHENBUSH, @cityoflawrence.org. Commissioners are to respond to roll call with a response here when your name is called. David Blunt.
Here.
Here. I'm sorry.
Jerry Clifford.
Here.
Non-voting advisory member Dick Freegee.
Here.
Ray Rohana.
Here.
Cheryl Sullivan.
Here.
There you go.
And the president has announced there is a quorum present.
And I have forwarded those documents to Dick and
Cheryl.
Okay.
Repeating what I said before we moved on to that Becky Parker has officially resigned from her position on the Redevelopment Commission. The council is aware, and they will be working on a replacement for her. I'm assuming that everyone has had a chance to read and go through the minutes. Do we have an approval for the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Okay. Second?
Second.
Okay.
Okay, we'll just,
All in favor?
Aye.
We'll need to do a roll call.
I was going to do a roll call vote, sorry.
Required to do
How about that? Okay.
So for approval of minutes, please say A or nay when your name is called. David Blunt.
Hey,
Can we clarify which minutes we're approving? Because there are two sets of minutes. So we'll want to do them one at a time. We'll need a motion and a second for each set because you have minutes of your regular meeting, May 26th, and minutes from your executive.
exec session. Okay.
We'll need to separate out those.
Okay, so you want to begin with the approval
With the
for the May 26th?
May 26th meeting, yes.
So, and who made the motion?
Ray.
Right.
And who seconded?
Jerry.
Okay, and then we'll do our roll call vote. David Blunt,
Hey.
Jerry Clifford,
Hey.
Ray Rohana,
A.
Cheryl Sullivan. Okay. And then approval for our executive session minutes.
And I'm assuming everyone has had a chance to read back through and go through the executive session minutes? All right, and can I have, can we approve those, please?
So approved.
Have a motion?
Motion?
Second?
I second.
All right, all in favor?
Okay, roll call. So David Blount,
Hey.
Jerry Clifford,
Hey.
Ray Rohana,
A.
Cheryl Sullivan. Okay, thank you.
All right, next on our agenda is the approval of claims and purchase orders. Mr. Fenwick?
I don't have anything to add other than what's on the,
Okay, does anyone have any questions for Jason?
Jason, we're still working on this is the items that are still subject to reimbursement, right?
yes.
Yes, thank you.
All right, and if everyone has reviewed, can I have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, second?
Second?
Okay, roll call vote. Jerry Clifford,
Yay.
Ray Rohana,
A.
Cheryl Sullivan, and David Blunt.
Hey.
Do we still need to sign?
All right, next on the agenda, this is new for me at least, but we have public hearing. And is that going to be you, Ashley?
So what you want to do at this point in time is, we're having a public hearing on resolution number 3-2020. Resolution confirming the resolution of the Lawrence Redevelopment Commission adopted on May 26, 2020, entitled amending declaratory resolution of the Lawrence Redevelopment Commission on amending the plan for the Pendleton Pike redevelopment area. So at this point in time, what we'll do is suspend the regular meeting. So we'll need a motion and a second to suspend the regular meeting and open the public hearing. That time, the public will be able to provide comments. And at the close, we will have a motion to close the public hearing and reopen the public meeting.
Okay.
We'll just start with that first motion to suspend the regular meeting and open the public hearing.
Can I have a
Motion
motion
to
to suspend the
End the
public?
public meeting.
I second the motion.
All right.
And we will have a roll call vote. David Blunt,
Aye.
Jerry Clifford, Ray Rohana,
Aye.
Cheryl Sullivan.
And we'll want a motion since to open the
Introduce.
public hearing now.
Can I have a motion to
So moved.
public? Okay.
I second.
All right.
And roll call vote. David Blunt,
Aye.
Jerry Clifford,
Yay.
Ray Rohana,
Yeah, A.
Cheryl Sullivan.
We'll just ask if anyone from the public has any comments to make, and if not, we can close the public hearing.
Could, this is a suggestion, just introduce the topic again and then ask for comment.
Does anyone from the public have a comment on resolution number 3/2020? And it's referring to the Pendleton Pike TIF that we will hopefully be adjusting.
Nothing by email.
Hearing none, I would make a motion that we close the public meeting,
Public hearing.
public hearing, excuse me.
Do I have a second?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Roll call vote. David Blunt,
Aye.
Jerry Clifford,
Aye.
Ray Rohana,
Aye.
Cheryl Sullivan.
And then we'll want a motion to reopen the public meeting.
Make a motion to reopen the public meeting.
The regular session, you mean, the RD session.
The regular session.
Thank you.
Yes.
Second,
I second the motion.
yes.
And all in
And
favor?
roll call vote. David Blunt,
Aye.
Jerry Clifford,
Aye.
Ray Rohana,
Aye.
Cheryl Sullivan. Okay. On to old business.
So happy Ashley's here. All right, we will move on to old business. Jason, can you please give us an update on the current and forecasted financial status?
Sure. Good afternoon. And I sent, or actually, Mary Jo sent around two different PDFs. The first one, which I won't spend a lot of time on, is just the current snapshot of the financials for the Redevelopment Commission as of the end of May. It's more or less a historical document at this point. So if there were any questions on that, I'll entertain those. But I really wanted to focus more on the pro forma financials that we put together. And so turning to that, the first page, and I've only listed the redevelopment capital fund. I've excluded the debt service fund and the Monarch fund because this is pretty much what we have to work with. So you'll see on the first page at the top, it says 406 redevelopment capital fund. I give a comparison of the last 4 years, again, just as an historical perspective. So you can see under revenue, the first line item is the actual increment that's been generated from the Pendleton Pike TIF. And on average, that's been about, right around 475,000 plus or minus in any given year. Then down below are the expenses from the last 4 years. And really the main takeaway right now for this historical comparison is where we ended 2019 in terms of the cash balance. So there was 1.36 million in that fund at the end of last year. So working with Dan, we've come up with a pro forma for the next 4 years, which also includes current anticipated expenses for consulting and legal, economic incentives as it pertains to the Freegee project, basically all the knowns that we know right now. I highlighted in yellow what the current annual obligation right now is, which is the debt service, which I've attached to that schedule. So you can see in 2020, with this current forecast, we expect to end the year with about 1.1 million. That includes a partial economic incentive on the Freegee deal. Then in 2021, you can see, again, down to probably 2/3 under the expenses I've categorized as Freegee project. The first, or the second payment of 300,000, and then the final one in 2023. But the takeaway is, given the balance we have, we'll still end 2023 with about a little over 870,000 in cash.
And one of the things I want to reiterate is that this is a forecast, it's not a budget,
Correct.
based upon the historical type of work we've been seeing. If we really ramp up our work a lot, as it looks like we're doing right now, then the cost may go up, but we would expect the revenue coming back into the RDC to do the same thing.
Yes.
To Jerry's challenge to us a few weeks ago, this is just our best effort to give you a comfort that we can secure the work that we're talking about.
And I would point out on the next page with the chart, the blue line on the top shows the RDC's net cash position based on this pro forma. And then the green line is the increment expected to be generated. So you can see when the Freegee project, if it, is approved, when it comes online, a spike up in the increment. So we're estimating it's almost a 50% increase in the increment just off of that one project. Hence, the more of these we do, the greater the increment we create, and therefore, we have much more ability to get even bigger things done. If you look at the net cash position as well, and I think Dan could attest to this, he's probably got a list of projects that would need to be prioritized, but could potentially well exceed what we have right now. So there is a lot of demand and a lot of things that need to get done here. So we definitely need to start creating additional increment in order to get even more done.
Great.
But I think the emphasis on this, as Dan mentioned, was we have the resources and the capability to provide the economic incentives for the Freegee project. And if you look at the probably conservative increment of 200,000, that payback based on those economic incentives is, probably just over 3 years.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty good investment.
And the other real comfort we wanted to give you is coming up here in a few minutes, but things like the Ice Miller contract coming up here in a few minutes for approval. We're going to need those services to accomplish all the things I'm obviously plowing in on your agenda. So we wanted to be sure you understood that the money's in the bank to do the things that we're asking you to do, and that we're watching it very closely.
And I think we also have some demolitions that we would like to do, which have also been included in here. So basically anything that's on the agenda tonight that's being requested is reflected in here, and we definitely have the resources, to fund those.
Great. Mr.
I was going
President,
to say questions, comments?
you've done a phenomenal job of increasing and improving the city's bond rating. And a part of that is how much money you have that what kind of revenues you generate, and then what what you can do with the revenues in terms of maintaining a surplus or rainy day fund, whatever you want to call it. Is this included, has this traditionally been included
No,
in that number?
it has not.
Thank you.
Yep.
And the reason that's not included, that number, is those are our redevelopment commission monies. Those are not City of Lawrence monies.
True, but then at the same time, RDC sub-10's under the city of Lawrence, and it is a part of it, so.
Not to get too far into the weeds, but usually when we talk to the rating agencies, one of the questions that they'll ask is overall liquidity.
Yeah,
And so they'll want me to identify all of the potential sources of that liquidity, including if I could do an interfund borrowing. Now, theoretically, the utility could do an interfund borrowing to the city, so that would be included, but the RDC funds have never been included even in that kind of theoretical liquidity exercise.
excellent, thank you.
My question to the RDC is, does this address the concerns and questions you had a few weeks ago when you challenged us to provide this information?
As long as, I'm sorry, Mr. President?
Go ahead.
Thank you. As long as Jason's running, or actually serving as our fiscal officer, I'm absolutely satisfied.
Yeah, I am satisfied as well. How often should we expect to see something like this?
We can provide it monthly.
Okay.
Obviously, if nothing's changed, it'll be the same document, but, I can provide it monthly, quarterly, maybe quarterly is probably the best, just so we're not
Quarterly.
inundating you with the repetitive information.
I think that'd be adequate, absolutely.
I'd like to, I'd like maybe producing this document quarterly would be appropriate.
So going forward, let's make it the calendar year quarters, January. Let's just make a document in our minutes that we're going to provide this document at the beginning of January. What would that be, in April, June, or July, rather, in October?
Does that work for you?
We'll skip July and go to October next.
Great. And our
That would
commitment.
be terrific. Thank you so much.
And Cheryl, our Commissioner Sullivan, our commitment to you will be that if we take on a project or do something that's going to impact this significantly in some way in the interim period, we'll be certainly update you in the interim.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Jason. I'm going to need to pause and take a few steps back because I overlooked the election of the officer vice president today. I do have a nomination for Jerry Clifford to become the vice president. Do we have any more nominations? Well, can I have a motion to approve
I
Jerry?
make a motion to approve.
So moved.
All right, that's our second.
And Cheryl seconded. And so do we still want to do a roll call vote? David Blount,
Out. Aye.
Jerry Clifford,
Aye.
Ray Rohana,
Aye.
Cheryl Sullivan.
Aye.
Okay.
All right. Now we can move on with our old business. Next on our list is the letter of engagement by Ice Miller. Come on up, John.
President. At our last discussion, we had had some discussion as to some sort of cap or the amount or whatever. I went back, redrafted it. It has what I'll call a budget in it. So it's not a cap per se. It's not a not to exceed. It's anything like that. But what it is commitment that if we are going to exceed the amount of we're in the zone of $50,000 to $75,000, I'll come back, inform you what we've been doing, what the costs have been, and our plan or projection of what we believe that would take to move forward from there. And that way we can have an iterative process between us.
Is that something that you will come back to us prior to, or is that something that, hey, we spent this much over
So
last month?
it says 50 to
because of-
75 in there with the exact idea that I'll come back at 50 before we're to 75. That way we've got sort of a period of time in there where we know that we're saying we're not going to go above 75, but if I hit 50 and it's August, I'm going to take a hard look at things and say, come back to you and say, okay, I've been asked to do X, Y, and Z. We believe that it will be this, which we think will exceed or won't exceed. Because also, if it's going to get close, we don't want any surprises for any of you. You're obviously having to be stewards of the public dollar. And so that's our commitment, is we'll make sure that you don't get surprised on any of those things.
Questions?
Good.
Any concerns? Good. Cheryl, do you have any questions or concerns?
No, I do not. Thank you.
Okay. Well, can I have a motion to approve the letter of engagement for Ice Miller?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
All right.
Thank you. And then we will do the roll call. David Blunt,
Aye.
Jerry Clifford,
Aye.
Ray Rohana,
Aye.
Carol Sullivan.
Aye.
Thank you. Continue on old business. Dan, can you give us if there's any updates on what we discussed last meeting on the Shadeland properties, 4423 and 4399?
4423, I'm pleased to tell you that we have a very strong prospect to take that facility as is for adaptive reuse. We have a meeting with them this Thursday, a walkthrough with a team of construction people. I would expect to, depending on how that goes, I would expect to come back with some kind of MOU or a letter of intent or offer at our next meeting next month. I am going to ask for another executive session. That would probably be part of that discussion to discuss real estate matters relative to that property. I have another idea for 4399, but don't have it well enough vetted yet to bring it to the table. But the good news is that that property, I believe, will move. We did have a second inquiry today on that property that I hadn't had time to share anybody with. MJ sent me a phone call. But I really don't think that the use that they intended for is what this group had in mind. But I believe we have a bona fide, legitimate partner for that project that's very interested and motivated, and I think would be an excellent redevelopment opportunity. And I'll be bringing that to you in the next month. That's the good news. And I believe the intent is to repurpose the building. It wouldn't look anything like it does, but nonetheless, the whole thing would get totally revamped and I think would be a beautiful addition to the city. So you can look forward to getting that information probably in the next 3 to 4 weeks.
Questions, concerns on that?
Looking forward to it.
All right. Thank you, Dan. Moving under new business, I will let Dan take this over, but I know number one is the use of the consent agenda, which.
So I've asked Ashley to, I thought Cheryl had announced, Commissioner Sullivan had an outstanding recommendation for the use of consent agendas where appropriate, particularly with what we're trying to get done in so much of a time frame in these meetings. So I asked Ashley to educate all of us on what that means and what we're allowed to do and what the parameters are.
And I'll just take a couple minutes to explain this. And Mary Jo forwarded some information on consent agendas just this afternoon. This is something we can certainly talk about and discuss. Some things do require individual motions and votes as opposed to the use of a consent agenda. Right now, the use of a consent agenda wouldn't be allowed during the public health emergency. It has been requested that all meetings, regardless of whether they're being held virtually or not, because a lot of meetings are being held either entirely virtually or at least partially virtually, that roll call votes be taken. So that's why we're having to do roll call votes on everything. So we're not in a position where we can implement the use of a consent agenda at this moment during the course of the public health emergency, because we need to continue to have those roll call votes on each and every motion. So that's something we will certainly revisit once the public health emergency has ended and we can go back to kind of the way things operated prior to.
Well, I think it's something we can look forward to, and as soon as we can get through COVID and go back to standard meeting operating procedures, we can adopt this. But I wanted to be sure that you understood that we heard you loud and clear, and I thought it was a great idea that we want to incorporate. And I would suggest that all of us study this document.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is the community-wide Brownfield assessment grants. Again, we're asking, and you have some in your packet today, I'm going to ask for approval to move. These are monies that really are not going to be money that the RDC is going to expend because you go first. You're going to get a net zero effect because the grant that's out there. But it is an asset to you, and I wanted you to be sure that you understand what's available and what's been spent and what's not out of the last $300,000 appropriation. This document you have in front of you is an accounting of what was spent prior to me coming here at 5/31. I will tell you that there are a few dollars that you're approving today and all that this is not exactly accurate. But Jason, I believe you're $210,000 plus left in that fund from where we are at the moment. So even though it shows 231 at the end of May, or 223 at the end of May, 223,080, 287 is remaining. You're at about $12,000 today.
Can you talk a little?
You're at about $12,000 in your balance today. So just wanted to bring that to your attention. So when we talk about we want to do in phase ones, phase twos on these properties we're investigating, like 8102 is going to come up in a little bit, 8150, 2 or 3 of these properties I'm asking for phase one, phase two investigations. That money will come out of these monies here. All right? Any questions on that?
None.
All right, the next item, we have discussed briefly in the past, the building sitting on 4711 German Church Road that is owned by the RDC. We discovered that that property was transferred due after tax sale. And we also further discovered that the reason those buildings look so bad is that the fire department used those for training for a while, and then they got closed up. And so they are as bad as we thought they were. And Tom kind of took me to challenge the other day as to whether or not we should be spending money to tear them down. Why not just let the buyer? And my position is, just to say this publicly, that we're expecting the public and property owners to maintain their property and make them look proper for people coming in and out of town and visiting the city. I think we have to be expected to maintain our own standards. And we can add the price to the property. We can recover it at the time we sell the property. So in my mind, it's a very proactive and appropriate move to get those structures down from a safety perspective, from a vision perspective, and I would like to support this commission to do that. So we would like to be able to seek quotes to take those buildings down, and I'm asking for your permission to seek those quotes. I think actually
That's correct. Up next on your agenda is actually an RFP for on-call demolition services for other types of projects of this nature. However, this is a property where we want to go ahead and move on, given its status at the moment, and we want to go ahead and get that torn down before we're able to get that RFP issued. That's why we'd like to go ahead and seek your authorization, which you can statutorily do. You are allowed to remove structures or any deficiencies on property that you own under the statute. So we'd like your authorization to issue a request for quotes, and then what we'll do is bring that back to you for approval once we have those quotes and with a recommendation on who to select based on the quotes that are received.
And I don't have that, it's probably here in front of me, buried in all these documents somewhere where I've got them mixed up. But didn't we ask for a $100,000 limit on that on-call?
For the on-call, we're going to. We're just going to do, there's nothing in writing that's not in a document. We're just going to ask for authorization to issue that RFP in the next agenda item.
Correct. So our thought is just to be more explanatory that we select a company and we tell them we want a proposal for $100,000 in on-call services. That whenever we need them, we can just pull that company in and do that without going through a lot of formal processes. Another thing to just muddy the waters a little bit, I ought to learn when to shut up, but one of the things we may look at on 4711 German Road, I do know that that structure has a basement. I've learned that. I do know that the city has quite a bit of dirt at hand right now that they could use. We may look at what the city might charge as opposed to the quotes we get back or in the proposals. And depending on how that works out, we may enter into a reimbursement agreement for the city to take those down too. We have flexibility to do different things. So I'm just asking for right now to find out so we all know what the cost of getting those structures down. I'm asking for this board to approve us going out for RFP to take those down.
I have a motion for approval?
Could I have a question?
Yes.
Dan, have you thought about just selling the property as is and letting the new owner worry with the demolition?
That's what Tom challenged me on. And my problem is you don't have any control as to when the new owner does that, when he'll do it, how long they'll sit there. And we can add to the price what the cost of the demo is and make us whole. I think we need to take control and get those down.
Okay. Well, I think you, by virtue of you've got a lot more experience in this than I do. I was involved in a situation where the buyer preferred to just handle it all rather than spending money on a
I
demolition.
think we can get more money for that property, and it looks far more desirable with the structures not there.
Okay. And all you're looking for today is a permission for or authorization to get a quote for the
Correct.
demolition.
Correct, a contract would have to come back to you for consideration and approval. This is just to go and authorize the obtaining of quotes.
Okay. Did you get any, do we have any idea of what the property, well, how do I,
We have not appraised it yet.
okay. Thank you.
Do we have a motion?
Don't yet. I have a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept.
Second.
Okay, and roll call. David Blunt,
Aye.
Gary Clifford,
Aye.
Ray Rohana,
Aye.
Cheryl Sullivan.
Aye.
Thank you.
Ashley, would you go on with the authorization for on-call services?
Yes, so what we'd like to do, so we don't have to come back to you with every single property that requires demolition services, we'd like to issue an RFP, request for proposals, for up to $100,000 to provide on-call demolition services for other situations such as these, for other properties that Dan or someone discovers may need to be demolished. And so that way we'll have kind of that built-in company who's ready to go, that we've gone through that process and selected through that RFP process. We'd like your approval to go ahead and issue that RFP for up to $100,000 for on-call services.
Is that $100,000 per property, or
Well,
is
that's
it
a
just
total.
$100,000
Just
total? Okay.
Blanket total general.
Okay.
And if we need to go above and beyond that, we'll come back to you for authorization, but that's kind of the cap.
Just to use German Church Road, and I'm going to go out on a limb here, but my suspicion is that you'll get 3 to 5 properties demolished in that $100,000 balance easily. So that's we just want the flexibility, particularly if we have an emergency for some reason where we need to take a structure down.
Actually, when you put an RFP out like that, how do you publish it?
We'll publish it on the city's website. That's one way, and then a lot of times it's published in the newspaper.
Okay,
So
you don't select,
Indy Star.
Well,
you don't select demolition companies.
We do both. So she'll publish it publicly, but I'll also take the list of Lawrence contractors specifically that we believe are interested at work, and we'll send it to them directly.
You
Excellent.
can do both, and that's typical.
Excuse me?
You publish and you solicit directly.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Any more questions on that?
No.
Can I have
For a motion,
a motion?
I'll make it.
All right, can I have a second?
I second.
Okay, and a roll call vote. David Blunt,
Aye.
Jerry Clifford,
Aye.
Ray Rohana,
Aye.
Cheryl Sullivan.
Aye.
Thank you. Next item, 801-6 46th Street. This gets confusing because there's actually 3 parcels in 801-6 that all have different mailing addresses. I want to call your attention that, just for your information, I did include the appraised value of the 2 parcels that were in the first appraisal, but we cannot publicly disclose those yet. By statute, we have to wait till we have both appraisals in hand, and then we'll publish a listing sheet to inform the public and potential buyers of what the parameters for the RDC has in disclosing that property, but I wanted you to see what the outcomes were as they came back. Mr. Khan continues to call me. He did yesterday. He really wants to get his warehouse up, and I informed him that we have statutes that Ashley holds us to, that we're not trying to be difficult, and we're moving as fast as we can, and that this meeting was a critical part of that process. So in order to be able to draft the listing statute and basically go out for proposals for what people want to do with the project and how much they want to pay, we have to have a second appraisal by statute. So in your packet, you'll see from IRR, which is a Lawrence-based company, I've reached out to get a proposal for a second appraisal to let this process move forward. And it's $2,900 if my memory serves me right. $2,700 for the second appraisal, which is right in line with what we paid for the first appraisal. I'm seeking the approval of this commission for me to authorize this second appraisal so we can knock this out and have this ready for you to move forward with the disposition in our next meeting.
Can I have a motion?
We have the motion.
I second.
Okay, and we will do a roll call vote. David Blunt,
Aye.
Jerry Clifford,
Aye.
Ray Rohana,
Aye.
Cheryl Sullivan.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Your next resolution, Counselor.
We have resolution number 2-2020. It's a resolution, the Lawrence Redevelopment Commission determining the need to capture incremental assessed valuation. Sorry.
Just a little closer to the microphone.
Sorry, I am not speaking to that very well, am I?
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Can't hear what you're saying.
So, if there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer those, Mr.
I'm
Finley.
sorry, I didn't hear you.
You need to start over there.
I did not hear you, I'm
I
sorry.
am so sorry. Let me try that again. So in front of you, you have resolution number 2-2020.
Yes.
It's a resolution of the Lawrence Redevelopment Commission determining the need to capture incremental assessed valuation. This is in regards to the statutory notices that have to be provided that were provided last week in regards to whether or not there's any excess TIF.
Right.
This is required yearly. You did it last year as well. So Mr. Fenwick has informed me that there was no excess TIF to distribute, so therefore those notices were sent out last week, and this is a resolution informing you of that and asking for your ratification of those notices.
I recommend we approve.
I second.
Second.
Do a roll call vote. David Blunt,
Aye.
Jerry Clifford,
Aye.
Ray Rohana,
Aye.
Cheryl Sullivan.
Aye.
All right. Great. All right, this is the biggest discussion. This is the biggest discussion of the evening, 8102 to 8150 Pendleton Pike. Joe, get down with the documents.
Yes.
Thank you, Joe. So this was a miscommunication, and I apologize, between council and me and Mary Jo. Cheryl, I have forwarded to you and Dick by email. I hope you're sitting by your email.
Thank you.
I forwarded you the documents as the meeting began. Do we still need to do something with this 30?
We do.
With the 30?
I'm holding on to it. It wasn't listed specifically, so we'll need to go back and adopt that when you finish with this property. I already have that pulled out.
All right, so
You need one?
the discussion at hand is a parcel that I brought to your attention that I really believe is critical for the city to control. It's the former car wash located along Pendleton Pike. The big news to you that we didn't understand the last time we were together, that it actually includes the car lot on the corner too. So when you look at the document I sent you, it's the entire corner, which makes it even more desirable to us. So it's actually two parcels, the car wash plus the car lot that you see on the very corner of McCoy and Pendleton Pike. That is an extremely high demand parcel for us to control, because if we can get Freegee on the complete at 465, and we have Monarch to the west, and we get this parcel in the center, and we can develop it to the standards that we want to redevelop it, that says who we want to be when we grow up as we start to move down the pike, and what type of businesses we're trying to locate there. And as people see that new major investment occur, it will just let the park
the Pikes start to redevelop on its own, kind of like a domino effect. I have been negotiating on behalf of this, in full disclosure, on behalf of this commission. And in front of you, you have an option to purchase that, I'm sorry, yes, an option to purchase that what I wanted to do was get this parcel off the market for 90 days, or at least if it's on the market, we get the first right of refusal should somebody come to purchase that property. I wanted it done in such a way that I took the risk exposure out for this group. So as we did our investigations for due diligence, we didn't have a chance, we didn't get the exposure to spend the money on due diligence and then have it sold out from underneath us and have nothing to show for our money. So if you look at this agreement, first of all, the total price of the option, and I think Tom and Ashley and Jason will tell you is they've never seen anything like this, I negotiated to $15. So all we're paying is $15 for the right to option the property. We're also agreeing that the other thing I gave them in that is I agreed to give them a copy of the appraisal when we get it, and I agreed to give them a copy of the Phase 1 environmental assessment, and it required a Phase 2. So as part of what you're going to be asked to approve in a moment is the cost of the first appraisal. I'm going to ask you to approve the seeking of the environmental reports that we need, Phase 1, Phase 2 if we needed, fully understanding that that's going to be done through an EPA assessment grant that really isn't going to cost us any money. Additionally, upon receipt of the appraisal report from the buyer, we're going to assume that that's going to establish the basis with the seller of about what we're willing to pay, because we can only pay the average 2 appraisals. So that's basically going to fire the first shot over the bow, and right now you can see on the listing agreement they want $799,000. If it comes back at some number, and I don't know what that number is, I don't want to be suggestive, but if we just picked a number in the dark and it comes back at 675 or 700, we're basically saying that's about what we're willing to pay for the property. One of the things I didn't want to do, because we needed a second appraisal, I wanted to be sure that no one was homered in this process, to use a lack of a better word, and that no one got to go to an appraiser and say, we need to appraise it for this. So the agreement is that buyer and the seller will work together to pick the second appraisal, but it has to come back within a margin of 15% of the first appraisal before we're obligated to buy. So if we get 2 appraisals within 15% of each other, then that triggers us the ability to go ahead and enter into a purchase agreement and go forward with the purchase of the property. So what I'm really asking this group to do right now is 3 basic things. I'm asking you to approve this option to purchase so we can take the property off the market for 90 days and protect our interests. I'm going to be asking you as a second vote to approve me getting the first appraisal, which is provided for you a copy here of what that appraisal is going to cost. And the third thing I'm asking is approval to go out and seek the environmental information, environmental reports, investigations. Ashley, I think that pretty well covers that.
Yes.
And I've asked Ashley and Tom to both review this document.
And you will have to seek 2 appraisals. So Dan, do you want to go ahead and ask for the approval to seek 2 appraisals?
We can, but I don't expect to seek the second one until we get the first one back.
Right. I just didn't know if you want to go ahead and get
That'd be great.
authorization to get the second one if necessary, and to also get the Phase 2 environmental if necessary, or if you want to do that at the July meeting.
I would just as soon get it all done. And I want to share with you all, if you look at this document, you'll see where the buyer and seller have agreed to share the cost of the second appraisal, 50-50 closing. So the second appraisal, we're only half responsible for in the cost.
And so,
We got paper for the first thing you want. We got paper for the second thing you want, and then for the.
We should have, what's the third thing? Oh, the environmentals?
Environmental.
The environmentals is all done through EPA grant, and we're fully reimbursed anyway, so we didn't bother including paper for that. We're going,
But you still need approval for
I
it.
just need approval that we're going to do that.
Okay, cool. And Jason, did I hear that right? 877,000,
799.
799? And so that's,
It's not included in there,
I didn't think so.
yes.
But while it is included in there, is we looked at the balance to be sure that you'd have 500,000 or 600,000 left over. We had that specific discussion. So one of the reasons we provided that to you, Jerry, is so when we came to the table and said we needed $600,000-700,000 to purchase this property, Jason, I don't believe we ever want to allow this commission to drop below a $500,000 balance, and we can cover that there.
I would agree. Okay,
So
so
it is effectively in there in our thought process.
year two, well, this is going to have a major change here.
Well, keep in mind, you're going to have a $400,000 increment come in between now and then.
I think this piece of property is important enough, as Dan mentioned, to the redevelopment of Pendleton Pike, that we need to get through this process to, one, see what the actual cost could be and the environmentals on it. And then at that point, I'm confident if even the numbers were in the ballpark of what's being discussed, we will find a way to make it happen.
Okay,
That's
good.
about the best I can say right now.
I'm good, thank you. Okay,
And Dan, is there any thought of what you want to do with this property? I'm assuming we're tearing down the car wash and,
We'll want to level the car wash. I did check today. It's important for you to know. I don't feel like it's appropriate to the business to disclose, but I did find out the lease amount on the car lot, and I did find out it's month to month, and they're willing to extend it if we wanted it extended. I don't think we want anything but month to month, but I don't see any reason to tear down the car lot, put a bit local business out of business till we have some valid use for it. But they're flexible and they are relative to the current property owner, so everybody understands what's going on here. So I think we have an amenable situation here in every regard.
do you have a use in mind, Dan?
I really don't, other than I believe that has the potential for some really nice retail, commercial type building, office type structure. You know, with COVID, who knows what office parks are going to be, but Frigi, for example, a duplication of their type of project there would be perfect. In 2.89 acres, we can generally build somewhere between 15 and 20,000 square feet per acre with parking and amenities, so you could easily put 50 to 60,000 square feet of some type of nice space in there. And keep in mind what Browning's doing right now behind Menards with their big, beautiful new logistic facility. This isn't quite big enough for that, but all these things are starting to fall in place, and that's one of the most strategic pieces of property in the city right now.
Okay, thank you.
all right, do we have any other questions, comments? I think Cheryl, are you okay?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Okay.
I think David, your title is president, I believe, rather than director. On the buyer's signature printed line.
Okay. On the option agreement,
It says director.
yeah.
Okay.
We can
It
get
should say
that
president.
changed. Thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl. Can I have a motion
Are we going to do each?
to approve? Do we need to do each?
Yes, let's start with the option to purchase.
Thank you.
On the line.
I make a motion that we authorize the option to purchase.
I second the motion.
Okay, roll call vote. David Blunt.
Aye.
Jerry Clifford.
Aye.
Ray Rohana.
Aye.
Cheryl Sullivan.
Hi,
Okay.
All right, can I have another motion for
Appraisal.
Appraisals.
the appraisal?
2 appraisals.
Just one appraisal or two?
Do you want to frame it, Dan, option or authorization to seek one appraisal and second appraisal if necessary?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, now,
Option to seek,
you're going to take, excuse me for a second.
option to seek a first appraisal, and if satisfactory and necessary, a second appraisal to follow.
Great. You good with that, Mary Jane?
I'll go back and get the
So
term.
moved.
I second.
Okay, roll call vote, David Blunt.
Aye.
Jerry Clifford. Ray Rohana.
Aye.
Cheryl Sullivan.
Aye.
And can I have a motion for number 3, which is the environmental?
And I will frame that for you if I may, Mr. President.
Sure.
I'm asking for a motion to allow Bruce Carter to file an application on our behalf for an EPA assessment grant of that particular property, of which would be paid out of our EPA grant assessment that I shared with you, the balance of approximately $210,000 earlier.
Did you get all that? You get all that?
I will.
Okay, great. So moved.
I second.
Okay, roll call vote, David Blunt.
Aye.
Jerry Clifford.
Aye.
Ray Rohana. Cheryl Sullivan.
Aye.
Okay, the last item I have before we turn it over for the approval of resolution is I have enough real estate activity that I think you need to be aware of to be able to reflect upon our next meeting. I'd like to schedule an executive session to discuss those matters. I believe our next actual meeting is July
28.
28th, so I'm actually in town on Thursdays every week. I wondered if it'd be possible we could schedule it for one of the previous Thursdays to that, either a week or two before. I'm thinking, well, let's see. The 23rd is actually out. Maybe we actually back it up the week of the 16th. Is it possible that everybody would be able to make an executive session the afternoon of the 16th?
I'm good.
So Thursday, July 16th, I can do that.
Cheryl?
What time on the 16th?
Beautiful.
I would make it flexible to this group, but I was thinking 3:30 or 3 o'clock, 3:30, 4 o'clock. I don't think we need more than an hour.
I can do a 4 o'clock on the 16th.
Everybody amenable to that?
I can do 4 o'clock.
I can do 4 o'clock.
And Mary Jo, can you send out a calendar invitation to that effect?
Absolutely.
And we'll need to do the notice again, Mary Jo, like we did last time.
That gives me 2 or 3 weeks to generate plenty of things to discuss. All right. Mr. President, I think Ashley has one more item, and that's all for me.
Okay.
I do, Mr. President. Thank you. At the beginning of the meeting, we had the public hearing in regards to resolution number 3-2020. At this time, I don't believe it was listed separately. That was an oversight, but we actually need to take action and approve resolution number 3-2020.
I caught that as well. I was going to mention that. So, yeah, we didn't have an actual vote for that itself, for the
Yes, so-
resolution.
So we did hold the public hearing as required. Just for your information, this was originally approved by the RDC in the amending resolution on May 26, 2020. It then went to the city council. It was approved by the city council at their meeting last week. I believe that was on June 17th. And now it is back to you to hold the public hearing, what you did at the beginning of this meeting, and to take action on this amending declaratory resolution in regards to the Pendleton Pike redevelopment area. So we'll just need a motion and a second and a vote to approve this.
We have a motion to approve?
May. Great.
I second.
Roll call vote, David Blunt.
Aye.
Jerry Clifford.
Aye.
Ray Rohana.
Aye.
Cheryl Sullivan.
Aye.
So, Mr. President, if I may, this is really the first time under this new format that we've all been together and actually execute our business. First of all, I appreciate your support. Secondly, I want to know if there's any new items of concern that the commissioners have or interest, or any comments you'd like to make on anything we've done in the last 30 days. Okay. So my business is concluded, Mr. President.
Okay. Is there any other business to come for the commission?
Joe Murphy taking the role of the recording secretary for RDC.
Starting next meeting, next month, Mary Jo will no longer be our recording secretary. Our recording secretary would now be Mr. Joe Murphy. So just be ready next month for some new blood, and We'll be ready to roll.
Bless you.
Any other new business, any other business period to come before the commission? All right,
But they're on time.
I was going to say, wow,
perfect timing.
we have to make a motion to adjourn.
Yeah.
Mr. Adjourn.
There's no more questions.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
You have a motion to adjourn, Mr. President.
I second.
And roll call vote, David Blunt,
Aye.
Gary Clifford,
Aye.
Ray Rohana,
Aye.
Cheryl Sullivan.
Aye.
Adjourn.
Meeting adjourned.
MJ?
Yes.
Thank you.